Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Woolly Careers webinar with AWI. It's National Ag Day, and we thought we'd do something a little bit different. So I'm Craig French. I work for AWI. I manage the wool harvesting, training and careers development with the company. There's so many great opportunities and pathways for you in the career in agriculture. We want you, we need you. Agriculture is an essential service. Therefore, you'll never be out of work. Food and fibre, what a great industry to be part of, helping to feed and clothe the people all over the world. Okay, let's get started. We'll be talking through this webinar with various young people in ag. You're welcome to ask questions. Please load those questions up on the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We'll try to help answer those questions for you through this webinar. This webinar will also be recorded. I'd like to welcome George Lehman. He's co-hosting this webinar here with me. And George, you can introduce yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, hello all, and thank you for joining us today for National Ag Day. I'm pretty excited with the group of people we have gathered here, and hopefully you all get a little bit out of it. But a little bit about myself. So I'm from come off a place near Junee in New South Wales on a farm there. It's about 40 minutes out of Wagga Wagga. When I finished school, I actually went to university and studied a Bachelor of Food and Agribusiness. And from there, in 2020, was lucky enough to get the graduate role here at AWI. And I did that for 12 months. And then after that, moved into my current role, which is looking after education, training and capacity building sort of for young people. So to put it simple, I try and get young people keen for a career in wool.
Well, thank you, George. We're now going to go live to a shearing shed in South Australia. We've got Annabelle Haynes helping us over there. Annabelle, are you there? We'll cross over and you can introduce yourself and away you go, Annabelle.
I think you're on mute, Annabelle. Oh, there you
go. You got me now?
Yeah, thank you, Annabelle.
Hi, Craig. So I've been working in the wool industry on and off for about 8 years now. I started with my gap year just to save up a bit of money and to travel around before I went to uni. And it was a great opportunity to, work all around Australia and meet a heap of people and learn a lot of skills before going to uni about being independent and living on your own and all that kind of thing. So I had a really great experience and I loved the job. But so I'm in a shed in South Australia at the moment and we've got a 2-stander. The boys are having a break at the moment. But we're on crossbred lands. I've got about 1,000 to do. And the shearing pens here. We've got Sarah, our wool handler and wool classer. We've got some nice little crossbred lands which the boys are happy about shearing because they're quick and light and easy. Basically the sheep get taken from outside in the paddocks into the yards and here into the sheds, pushed up into the pens for the boys to catch and drag out onto the board. So Sarah, do you want to tell us a little bit about the wool we're dealing with today?
Hi everyone. The wool today is this crossbred lamb. So we're just shearing crossbred lambs. So the wool is at a lower value because of the crossbred wool in the markets at the moment. So pretty much the way we prepare this wool is straight in the press for any fleece wool and any secondary wool like bellies and skirtings go in together because of the length. They can all blend in together. So do you want to show us some of the wool? So this is crossbred lamb's fleeces. It's quite nice. Belly of the sheep here, and then any seconds to that. Short wool.
So that goes straight into the press here, and once that gets to 195 kilos, it's taken out and made into a bale, which gets sent off into the factory and branded with whatever here. So we've got crossbred lambs. And we've got the boys to do an example of the shearing for you. So they head in the pen, catch the sheep. These ones are kicking a little bit today. Drag them out on board. We're starting off with the belly. All the shearers get trained to shear a specific pattern at the shearing school. So they start off with the belly and end on the last leg. So work around the sheep. And the wool handlers pick up the wool as they go, removing any imperfections in the wool and separating the different types of wool. So as you can see, the boys can fly through these little sheep, and they get paid per sheep. So they can, the faster they work, the more money they earn. They can kind of be their own boss in a way. So you can cruise along and shear, say, 100 sheep a day and earn $400, or you could shear 300 or 400 sheep a day if you're really experienced and earn, say, $1,600. So it's quite motivating to know that you can, earn more skills to build up. So you can go to a shearing school, pick up little techniques from other shearers and trainers, and work up to shearing high numbers. And that's another reason it's a really good gap year job. You can just earn a lot of money in a short amount of time. So wool straight into the press, just because it's crossbred wool. If we were on merino sheep, we'd be throwing it onto the table, skirting it out, taking all the imperfections out, and straight into the press again. So yeah, we'll go to these boys later on and have a bit of a chat about their roles and what they love about their job. But yeah, not too much to see today because we're on crossbreds, but the process is a lot different with merino sheep. Cool.
Well,
Anything
thanks,
else you'd
Annabelle.
like me to share, Craig?
Thank you, Annabelle. That's been terrific. Really enjoyable to see what's happening in that shed. And that's,
What was that, sorry?
we'll come back to you in about 10 to 15 minutes time, okay?
Yep, no worries.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Annabelle. Well, we're crossing now to
Thanks. See ya.
we're crossing now to introduce some young farming champions. And I think first up we've got Dione. Is Dione there?
Hi, Craig. Hi, George.
G'day, Dione. And so just thank you very much and congratulations on being a farming champion. And if you could just introduce yourself and what you do in agriculture would be really good in your journey, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for having me here to celebrate National Ag Day. It's very, it's an honour to be able to work in the agriculture industry in Australia. And I'm very excited to be able to share with you a bit about my career and what got me here to chatting to you today. So I am a veterinarian. I work as a sheep veterinarian predominantly, and I'm based in the Riverina area of New South Wales. So that's in the south of New South Wales. We have mixed farming, so we have cropping, and then we also have sheep production. So fortunately for me, I get to work with sheep and other livestock like cattle as a veterinarian in my role. And I work with farmers every day to make sure that their sheep and livestock are healthy. So I'm going out to do things like farm visits, to do disease investigations if we have sick or dying livestock. And I also attend visits at the sale yards, at the Wagga sale yards, which we might have 40,000, anywhere up to 80,000 sheep there each week. So seeing a lot of sheep and checking on the health of those animals as well, so that we can make sure that they're free of diseases and so that those diseases don't spread into Australia and then within Australia, so that we can keep producing lamb and wool, like the crossbred lambs that you just saw from the live cross to the shed, keeping those animals healthy and free from disease, so that that wool is of a high quality, and then it's a beautiful product that we can sell. So my background and what got me to studying vet science is I studied at school. I studied agriculture in year 12. Actually, all the way through high school, I was able to study agriculture. I chose it as a subject in the HSC in year 12, and I absolutely loved agriculture and science subjects. So that took me to studying, that encouraged me to study veterinary science at university. So I went on to study veterinary science at Charles Sturt University in Wagga. That's a 6-year course, but it's predominantly focused on livestock. So you get to study all different species, cats and dogs. But because I love working with livestock and I grew up on a farm, I thought, well, I should study to become a livestock vet. And then as a livestock vet, I get to work with farmers and my favourite species, which is sheep, every day. And so I did that 6-year course. And then since then, I've been working as a veterinarian very close to the town where I grew up in. So really lucky to get to work with people that I know quite often. But it's really good, no matter what people's background was, whether they grew up on the coast or in the city, they all came to study vet science at Charles Sturt University. And no matter their background, we could all get the same skill set and have the same passion for keeping animals fit and healthy, and so that we can produce really great sheep livestock products. So that's a bit about me. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, George.
Thank you, Dione. That's really good, and it's really insightful. You've got a really responsible job. And can I just ask one question while I've got you there? With the recent rains and floods in your district, is that making life a bit harder for the sheep and cattle?
Yes, it certainly is. It's been a huge challenge for farmers that have been affected by our flooding. And my thoughts are with them, and my heart goes out to those people that are still working through that as we speak. The flooding and wet conditions certainly can make animals, like their health, be quite challenged, especially if they're standing in water or have nowhere to go and keep, for example, to keep their feet dry. But we, particularly in my job, we work with farmers to save sheep and other livestock during times of flood, and then afterwards to help them to recover, help their farms to recover for what it looks like post-flood. So whether that's helping them to have more fences back in on their farms, whether that's helping them to get food and like fresh, clean drinking water back to their livestock. So our role sort of includes all of that, from not just that really scary flood time, but afterwards as well, because it is really challenging for the health of those sheep as well.
Well, thank you so much, Dione. And if you stick around, there might be some questions that come through that we'll pass through to you towards the end of this webinar. But thank you. You stay safe, and I think we're crossing now to Danila. Thank you. You there, Danila?
Yep. Good morning, everyone.
Well, good morning to you. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time, and congratulations on your journey. And you're a researcher, are you, with the University of Adelaide? Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, I just started a new position here at Adelaide University. I've been here about 5 months now, so definitely warmed into it.
Well, if you just want to just explain to the audience, thanks, your sort of journey, how you've started, where you started, to show possibilities for the kids that are looking to take a role up in ag, Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, my name is Danila. I'm originally a city kid, so I've always loved animals and always loved working with them. But I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. Kind of wanted to be a vet, wanted to be a farmer for a while, and a whole bunch of other different things. And it wasn't till I had a look at Adelaide University's Roseworthy campus and was exposed to livestock and research that I really had my interest peaked. So I did a degree in animal science, so a Bachelor of Science majoring in animal science. And it was during those 3 years of my degree that I was exposed to livestock and the agricultural industry in a lot more detail than I'd previously had known before. And being interested in research, I kind of kept going. So I had a nice linear path and went straight from my degree into an honours, which is basically like dipping your toes into research, and you get to run your own little mini research project for about a year and you get to write it up. So exactly how a scientist would run a normal experiment. And that honours year, I actually got to work with sheep. So I was looking at how birth restrictions, so lambs that might have had poor nutrition or they might have been twins, how that difficult, I guess, pregnancy for those ewes and their lambs led to a change in those animals when they were born. So I looked at their stress response. So how could they cope in the environment after having a difficult pregnancy? And that sparked my love for sheep. Working with them for 9 months straight was absolutely fantastic. I loved their personalities and I thought they were just absolutely adorable. So I decided to chase sheep. And I went to do a PhD with CSIRO and the University of New England in New South Wales. And that was a lot of fun. So I did self-medication in sheep and cattle for my PhD, but mostly in sheep. And basically self-medication was seeing if we could teach sheep to take their own Panadol when they're feeling not too well. So that was a lot of fun and led me down the path of working on animal behavior and welfare. So I specialize in sheep. So most of my work currently is looking at ways that we can help farmers improve the welfare of that sheep, whether that be through finding new ways that we can provide pain relief or finding new drugs that can work effectively for the farmers. As well as just ensuring that the technology and other things that we use don't impact our animals when farmers get this new technology. So the last 3 years I've worked on something called virtual fencing, and that's basically collars that you put around your cattle or your sheep, and it gives a sound when they're approaching a fence line. And if they keep going, then it gives them a little stimulus. So kind of like if they were walking towards a normal fence or an electric fence. And we just wanted to make sure that when we give them this new kind of technology, that we're not negatively impacting how they function normally, and make sure that our animals stay healthy and healthy, which is exactly what you want out of your animals. So that's kind of the work that I've been doing in the past and continue to keep doing now. So at the moment I am working in the labs, so I'm working on sheep brains at the moment. So we're looking at ways that we can measure pain in our livestock. So it's really hard to tell if a sheep is in pain because they're really good at hiding it because they're prey animals. So we're looking to see if there's blood measures that we can use. So then you can take a blood sample and a farmer will be able to say, oh, this sheep is hurting, so let's give it some pain relief. And then in terms of looking at their brains, we're seeing if we can see long-term how pain impacts our animals, and what ways or what methods we can use to improve that in their lifetime. So that's why I'm in the lab at the moment. So my work kind of has a variety of jobs. I can be in front of the computer in the field or in the lab like I am today. So yeah, that's a brief rundown of what I do and how I got here. So it's a nice linear journey, but it didn't start out as me being on the farm, but it was just all the interest and love for sheep that got me here.
Well, that's terrific. No, that's really, really exciting. And thank you for explaining that. I know it's not easy to summarise your role in a short space of time, but hang around, please, Danila, for some questions. We have got some questions that have coming through, but we'll go across to Chloe and then we'll come back as a group to ask some questions. But Chloe, welcome to the webinar. Now you're down there. Hey, are you?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
And so you're a careers development officer with AgStart. I'll let you talk about your role, but congratulations and thank you for participating in this webinar.
Thanks so much for having me, and especially on Ag Day. It's an exciting time to be in agriculture for sure. And so for those who don't know me, my name's Chloe, and I'm actually originally from the Clare Valley in South Australia. A bit like Danila, I didn't have a background in agriculture. I didn't grow up on a farm of any sort. We lived on a little hobby block, but we didn't produce anything that went to market. We had, some horses and some potty lambs. But as Danila as well, I had a love for animals, and I really wanted to work in a field that I could work with animals and continue that passion. Originally, I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian as well. And after I did some work experience, it didn't seem to fit with where I wanted to go. So off I trotted, off to university, and the same as Danila, I actually went to the University of Adelaide as well and completed a Bachelor of Animal Science with intentions of going into the wildlife field. I really wanted to be a parks ranger or work in a zoo. And as I went through my degree, I started to realize that that was a very niche market and probably not suited to what I wanted to do, and started to see more opportunities in the livestock sector. So as I moved through my university degree, I took lots of different opportunities to learn. I was a part of the show cattle team. I went and did a week of a meat judging competition in Wagga, which is an international competition. And then I was lucky enough to be selected on a 2-week study tour of Indonesia. So I was able to see the live export sector over there and understand how that infiltrates back into Australia. So that was really exciting. And so when I finished university, I was feeling a bit, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work in livestock, but didn't know exactly where. So I applied for lots of different jobs, and eventually found a job on a sheep station in the Flinders Ranges in South Australia. So off I went to be a Jillaroo, which is a very entry-level position on a sheep station. So I worked there for 2 years, which was a fantastic opportunity. I did all the roles that are associated with being a Jillaroo. So basic sheep work, working in the yards, doing some mustering, maintenance around the property. The property I also worked on was a tourism business as well. So I was lucky enough to have a bit of a broad range of jobs that I was doing. I would also work in the customer service with the tourism, but then do the sheep work as well. So it provided for a lot of fun. I met a lot of different people. And through that time, in those 2 years, I ended up meeting my partner, Joe. So I had the cliche country moment where I met the boy and fell in love, and then have coincidentally married that boy recently. So it goes to show there's more opportunities than just a job in agriculture. But from there, after my 2 years, I was looking for something different, looking to step up into another role. And it was in that time, my partner, Joe, and I decided to go contract mustering together. So contract mustering is essentially a contract position where you go and work on different people's properties, farms, stations, etc., and doing lots of different roles. So, for example, we did a lot of mustering for the major events on sheep stations. So your shearing, your crutching, your lamb marking. We also did a lot of work mustering for feral goat control as well. So mustering them and sending them off to markets. And so we did that over about 4 properties in South Australia, and we travelled over to New South Wales as well. So we did that for around 3 years. We saw some wonderful scenery. We met some really wonderful farmers, and we got to learn lots of new tools and tricks of the trade along our journey. In 2020, we were lucky enough to finally be offered full-time work together on a property in Hay in New South Wales. So that's where I currently am now. And we moved here in 2020 onto 280,000 acres merino sheep station. So quite a large property for the Hay area. And my role was predominantly in the So my role was a senior station hand, and then predominantly in the genetics of our flock, and then also the nutritional aspects of our flock. So in times of drought, which we experienced, do we need to add extra feeding, or how can we manage our paddocks, etc. So that was kind of my role. So throughout this time, I've done many different things in my career, and have been in this great program, Young Farming Champions. I've been a part of the Peter Westblade Scholarship and supported through that. And so my passion was young people in agriculture. And for someone myself, how I've not come from an ag background, I really wanted to encourage more young people into the area, into agriculture. So at the start of this year, I was lucky enough to get a position with the Ag Career Start Gap Year program, where we place young people looking to go into agricultural roles, and we match them with farmers that are looking for employees. So it's an agricultural gap year program. It's for anyone 17 to 25, and it's for a 10 to 12 month program. So what we're really trying to encourage people is if you're looking to get a career in agriculture, this is a great program to do that. And so you get a full-time job, you get a wage, and then through the program, you're also getting a training and engagement bursary. And so my role within the Ag Career Start program is to help find opportunities for young people to upskill themselves. So that could be a ChemCert, that could be a shearing school, that could be a nutritional workshop, whatever it is that young people need that are in the program. My role is to help do that. So I've come from a very full circle, I guess. I've gone from very on-farm roles now into more of an office-based role, but still getting out and still in the areas that I love, working with young people, and still getting to share my story now with you guys today. So yeah, happy to answer any questions when we come to it.
Well, look, Chloe, that's really terrific. It's great that you've shared that experience as a Jillaroo. In actual fact, I started as a Jackaroo. I was born and bred in Sydney, in the city down here. So I started as a Jackaroo a long time ago, but that's great to hear. We've got some questions, George. We're going to ask you three farming champions with some good questions coming through. I'll ask George to read those out.
Yeah, some good ones coming through. So make sure you keep sending them in through the chat there. The first one's for Dione from Mon. What is it like working in sheds and helping animals?
Yeah, so it's very rewarding getting to work and help animals, and to see farmers perhaps get to improve their practices so that they can achieve the best health and welfare for their sheep that they have. Typically, so my background growing up on a farm, I got to learn about, how sheds work, and similar to what Annabelle's taken us through today. So that's very helpful for when I turn up at a farm and there's usually lots of different things happening and lots of different people working together in those shearing sheds to make it happen. Typically, most of the time, the animals that are going through sheds for shearing are very fit and healthy, and typically the vet isn't necessarily involved at that time, but sometimes it's a great opportunity to go and check on those animals, check on big groups of animals, and to see what's happening when those animals are coming through the shed. We also try to not yard animals and get animals in the yards just for the sake of it, if we don't have to, because it's another extra event for them to have to come into the yards and be moved. So what we also try and do is, if there's some other preventive health treatment that we can give sheep when they're in the yards for shearing and otherwise, like a vaccine or a drench, we try to do that at the same time, or fly prevention treatment, so that it all happens at the same time and saves them having to come into the yards when they don't need to, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's really rewarding to be able to work with the sheep, work in the sheds, and also to work with all of the other different people that make the wool industry happen. So you've got the farmer. I help farmers generally as a veterinarian. We've got the people that are working in the sheds, like Annabelle and her team that we're hearing from today. We've got Danila, who's doing the research for us to make sure that we've got the best practices that we're using in our industry. And then we've got Chloe getting the people on board to continue and keep that cycle happening. So it's really fun working with all the other people along the chain and cycle of the wool industry. And that's probably one of my favourite parts as well.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Dione. Another one come through for you from Amy. What's the most interesting thing you've been called out to?
Or certainly the most interesting things that I get called out to are when we have to play detective a little bit. So we hear that we've got perhaps a fair few sick animals and the farmer's not sure why that has happened. So for me, it's about putting my detective cap on and doing a paddock walk and walking around the paddock and trying to find, perhaps, is it like a poisonous plant, or is there something wrong with the water, or have the animals moved into a paddock that they shouldn't have? So I think I certainly have seen a lot of interesting cases where there's been a poisonous plant or something that has affected those animals, and I've really had to play detective. So something like oleander, the bush that lots of people have in their gardens, it's actually really toxic to livestock. So I've come across some unfortunate situations where that's been something that I've had to piece together that puzzle. Quite often, most of the time, the things that the vet gets called out for are not so great, but a lot of the time it's helping them to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, amazing. The next one is for Danila from James. Do you have to wear a lab coat to work every day?
No, I don't. So I'm only wearing a lab coat today because I'm in the lab. So depending on what kind of work that we do, we work on various chemicals and things like that. So it's just your protective gear. So I wear my lab coat, my gloves, and depending on what I'm doing, I either have to be under a fume hood with glasses and things like that. And working with animal specimens as well, you do have to make sure you're got your protective gear on. Normal day to day, if I'm in my office, then I definitely don't wear a lab coat, and in the field, then my lab coat's probably getting swapped for some overalls and boots instead.
That's great. We'll answer one more before we go back to Annabelle, and this one's for Chloe from Mon again. Did you say that you wanted to be a vet, firstly, and what do you like most about your job?
Originally I did want to be a vet. I thought that would be the way that I would be able to be around animals the most. And obviously I've since worked out that whilst it's a great opportunity and a great job, it wasn't for me. Currently, what I love about my job is hearing the good news stories from our young participants who previously had no experience in agriculture and are now thriving on farm, have been offered full-time work and ongoing work, have been to a really great training opportunity like a shearing school, can now shear, I don't know, a couple sheep a day, really honing in on those skills. So I think learning and hearing those good stories coming from the participants and also the host farmers that we place them with, how it's all going, the great knowledge, the great skills that these young people are learning, that's the most rewarding part of my job with Ag Career Start.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Chloe. Thank you to all of you for answering those questions, and thank you for passing those questions through the chat, guys. We're going to cross back to Annabelle now. We're going to hopefully be able to speak to the two young shearers, Lockie and Brandon. And are you there, Annabelle?
Hi, Craig. Can you see us?
Oh, I think we got Lockie and Sarah. Hi, guys.
We got Lockie and Sarah instead. So, so we've got Lockie here. So, Lockie, when did you get into shearing? Tell us a bit about yourself.
I was 19 when I started shearing. Just sort of got out of school and was looking for a job. And I'm from an hour and a half north of Adelaide, between the Barossa and Clare Valley. So I grew up in an urban area.
Yep.
And,
so how long have you been shearing for now?
This will be my 5th year in the industry.
Yep.
So starting to get the hang of it.
And you're planning on staying in the industry for a while?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's an addictive industry, and you kind of fall in love with it, and yeah, you just keep doing it, really.
Yeah, what do you like about your job?
The atmosphere in the workplace, how rewarding it feels after a good day in the shed, and just meeting new people and learning life skills through the job. Really.
What kind of skills do you think you've learned?
People skills for sure. Yeah. And communication skills. You're always meeting new people, and you can't really be shy in this industry. So you learn to break the ice real quick, and you meet some good people along the way, which is awesome.
Yeah, great. What can you keep doing to build your shearing skills and shear more numbers? Because obviously that's the aim.
Yeah, just keep learning. Always stay open to options. Never think how your shearing is good enough. You always want to do that 1% that always gets a little bit further. Because the more sheep you shear, the more money you make at the end of the day, and you want to do a good job doing it. So just always learn.
And you've been to a few shearing schools for that?
Yeah, I've been lucky. I've been to a few workshops and maybe five schools, which are really, they help boost the process of learning. Like you have, world champions and like really good shearers helping you out, just pointing you to the right direction, so you can get off real fast, real early, which is really good. Yeah,
and you've saved a lot of money in a short period of time, bought a new car, etc. through shearing.
Yeah.
You'd recommend it to young people?
Yeah, definitely. And you got to be good with your money. You work too hard to throw it away. You do get a bit carried away sometimes, but you need a good vehicle for this job too, because you're always driving, doing a lot of kilometres. You need to sort of set yourself up really for the job, and you want to set yourself up for the future, really.
Yeah, well done. And Sarah, so do you want to tell us a bit about you and your roles in the shearing sheds?
So I'm from Naracoorte, South Australia. I've been rouseabouting now for exactly 3 years, and classing for about 7 months, I think. Yeah.
Yep. And how old are you?
I'm 20 years old. Almost 20.
So started when you were 18.
Yeah.
So you're a classer now. What are the other pathways you're kind of looking into after this?
There's a lot of pathways for us woolies, so you could go into any sort of processing plant like Elders, or working for AWN or things like that, where you're sorting the wool, or wool brokerage, things like that, or more technical side like through AWI or AOX, things like that, or even still staying on the farm and sheep classing and those types of things as well.
Yeah, so what do you like about your job?
I love everything about my job, mainly just playing with the wool. I just love the wool. I love the sheep. I love how it's a bit of a competition every day with yourself and keeping up with the shearers. It's a fast-paced job and you get rewarded for it. You can travel almost anywhere in Australia, around the world, France, New Zealand, Africa, anywhere like that. So if you're into traveling and things like that and like to work, it's definitely a good industry.
Yeah, right. So where have you been with your job?
I've travelled all over South Australia and Victoria. I've done a little bit New South Wales, which I absolutely loved, and I'm currently got planned to get to go to New Zealand at the start of next year, so that should be good.
Wow, very exciting. Yeah, no worries. Thanks, guys. Any other questions from the students?
Annabelle, thank you. George has got a couple of questions come through. One for you, I think, Lockie.
Yeah, Lockie, we got one from you from another Lockie, a Year 5 student. He says, how many sheep do you average shearing a day?
I'll probably average on day, probably 200. I'd say is my sort of goal. And you obviously shear more, but then some days you shear less. So 200. That's what you want to aim to be for a good shear and always have a job. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously depends on the different type of sheep you're shearing.
Yeah, that's right.
How big they are, etc.
Yeah. So if you can get to that mark, you sort of set yourself up to have any job really.
$800 a day.
Yeah, $800 a day.
It's very good money.
That's great, Lockie. That's great, Annabelle. We've got another question, I think, for Lockie.
This one's from Charlie. He's a Year 5 student. He says, what is the hardest part of the sheep to shear?
it's all I almost belly sometimes. That's probably the trickiest. Once you get that off, it's sort of smooth sailing from there. But dragging it out is almost the hardest part once you get going. Yeah, that can be the hardest part, especially when they're big. Shearing them's no worries.
I've got a question here for Sarah
Sarah?
from Indy, who's in year 5. She says, what is the most important job in the shed?
The most important job in the shed is definitely the classer. That's where the farmer really counts on the classer to make sure that he's grown that wool for 12 months and he wants the most money that he can get out of it. And the classer is the one that gets that money. But everyone in the shed is very important. We all work as a team to get one job done, and that goal is to prepare that wool the best. And the classer just is the one that puts a stamp on that.
How good. That's terrific. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Lockie, for those really honest discussions around your role as a shearer and a wool classer. Thank you, Sarah and Lockie. Thanks, Annabelle.
No worries.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. We've we've got some more questions, George, or we?
Yeah, we've got a couple more questions coming through here.
Okay.
This one is for Dion from Chris. What does your typical day look like?
Great question. I would definitely say in my job every day is so different. But typically what it looks like for me is waiting until the start of the day, ticks over, and people will call if they have had issues with their livestock overnight, or if they've found something in the morning that they need looked at or have questions about. And if it is wet and farmers are inside and not able to be out and about and doing jobs on the farm, which this year has definitely been the case, those calls can be quite frequent on wet days because farmers are inside thinking about what's going on with their sheep. And then generally, once those calls have come in, we get an idea of where we're going to head for the day and which direction I'll be driving in. And then I'll head out to the farm, do a disease investigation. If I've got to go to the sale yards as well, if it's on a sale day, I'll generally go there first and then head to the farm afterwards. And then I usually will pack the samples that I collect on the farm. So that might be blood or tissue samples or poo samples. We can tell a lot from blood and poo of live animals of how healthy those animals are or what might be going on with them. And then we send those samples, get them to the courier so that they can get to the lab overnight. And then we can start investigating what's happening with disease. So typically we want to do that so that we can, by mid-afternoon, so that I can get back to the office and write up the cases that I've been seeing, because it's really important to have all of our information on cases on our computer systems so that we can look up what the history is of a farm and what's happened on a farm in the past, so that can help us to inform what we work with those farmers to do in the future. So yeah, that's about a typical day for me when I've got calls that have come in about sick or dying livestock and sheep that I need to go and investigate.
Amazing. The next one's for Chloe. And it is, my school doesn't offer agriculture as a subject. How can I get involved in agriculture?
Yeah, that's an absolutely fantastic question. And I think that's what we hear a lot in the ag industry is how do we get into agriculture if I don't have any experience or my school doesn't offer it? What I would suggest doing is if you are in an area, talk to your careers advisor about potentially doing some form of agriculture. Maybe you can do it externally through a subject of school. That might be one way you could do it. Alternatively, you might be able to actually contact a farmer directly. And if you don't know a farmer directly, I'd really encourage you to go into maybe like a local agribusiness. So maybe it's an Elders, a Nutrien, some of the other services that are available, and ask them if they know of any farmers that might be willing to take someone for work experience, because any form of experience that you do is a great way to learn. That's another great way to kind of find out what you like doing, what you don't like doing, if agriculture is for you. And there's lots of resources online. Lots of the major industry bodies have resources that you can look into, learn about, and there's various programs, school programs, etc., that you can get involved in with your school as well. So there's just a few ideas, but don't be alarmed if you haven't done agriculture through school or have any background in it. In the actual agriculture industry, we need many, many different types of people. We need people with backgrounds in agriculture, without backgrounds in agriculture. We need those new ideas coming in. So it's just about finding that foot in the door. And like I said, there's various programs. Have a look on social media, follow some of the ag influencers. They spread a lot of great stories. There's lots of great programs, Young Farming Champions, for example, spread the word about lots of different roles, etc., and programs. So just keep an eye out for them and see if any of them interest you and how you can get involved.
Amazing. Thank you, Chloe. The next one is for Danila. Do you have an office or work in labs mostly?
I do have an office, so out at Roseworthy, where I'm at the moment, I've got my own office with my desk and my PC that I work on. I also move around a lot, so sometimes I'm on North Terrace and I'm either using their labs or I have an office there as well. So I'm lucky enough to have an office outside of the lab, but some people do have their offices in the lab.
There's a question here for Annabelle. Annabelle, what's the difference between a wool handler and a wool classer? There might be a question for Sarah.
Yeah, so Sarah's here. So the wool handler is usually on the board, preparing the wool, throwing the fleeces, classer is in charge of sorting the fleece lines, things like that. They're the ones that instruct the handler on where to put the wool. They have skills about the actual classes of wool and that kind of thing. They have to run the shed as well. Yeah, and they're the ones that are in charge of all the bookwork and things like that at the shed. They're basically the class that runs the team of the wool handlers and shearers.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. That's great, girls. And tell me, is Lockie still there? There is a question come through for Lockie. Is he gone? Back shearing.
He's back shearing, but we might be able to answer.
What was the question, George?
It's from Leon in year 5, and he asked, on a scale of 1 to 10, how exhausted are you at the end of the day?
Well, I think from a wool handler or a wool classer perspective, it's about a 9.
Yeah.
It's quite physically demanding work, that's for sure. I think one day I did 50 kilometres at work just wool handling, if that says anything. So you get pretty tired.
Yeah, pretty tired, but keep pretty fit too, Annabelle. And,
yeah, keeping fit, it's a good thing. We like it. We like to work hard.
and just tell us what sort of money does a wool handler make per day, roughly?
Around $300 a day.
Yeah, around $300 a day at the moment.
More if you're more experienced, and yeah, so you can make a fair bit of money.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you so much for showing us through the shed and the shearing. It's been really, really good. Much appreciated. And you take care.
No worries. Thank you.
We got a question here for Dione now, from Tash at Hayes High School. How far on average a day will you travel to attend to animals?
Thanks for that question, Tash. When I first started working as a vet, I actually worked around hay. And so, like, for familiarity with the area that you're from, Tash, in asking that question, I would go like an hour and a half to every single job. So it was big, lots of traveling, 150 kilometers, 200 kilometers to get to a job. or more sort of thing. So it could take quite a while. And then where I go, so yeah, generally you could be in the car for several hours a day, basically, to get back and forth to different jobs. And then where I work now, it's probably under an hour in between jobs. So it's a bit more manageable to try and get to multiple jobs in a day if I need to. Sometimes also farmers might bring sick animals into us, because that can also work if they're coming to town. But animals don't really schedule when they get sick, unfortunately. So we generally just react to what is happening, and it might mean that we're in the car for several hours in the day. Hopefully that answered that one.
Well, thank you very much for that, Dione, and all the best. And look, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for everyone to participating in this National Ag Day webinar. It's been really enjoyable. And if anyone's got any further questions or want to reach out, then always just please feel free to contact us at AWI, and keep up the good work. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you all, and I hope you all enjoyed National Ag Day.